Hello, Internet, whoever's watching. Um, I'm broadcasting on a bunch of platforms at the moment, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to see anybody's comments because I'm having, I don't know, issues with these platforms. But they're broadcasting anyway. They sound good, I think, but I'm having trouble seeing comments. But I'm going to try to turn on the comments so that I can see them, but I'm not making any guarantees that that's going to work. But I'm going to just do that now. And basically, this is I've been doing the last Saturday of the month concert at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And that is what this is, except it's not going to be a concert. It's going to be a guitar playing workshop, as I've been telling people who are on my email list. Okay, now I might be able to see any comments on different platforms if people have any. So this is a guitar playing workshop, and I put out a couple of emails and posts and stuff about anybody who has songs that they particularly would like to learn how to play, because I get these emails and messages and stuff on occasion about can you show us how to play that song. And sometimes I have chord charts and stuff I can give people, and I have songbooks that have a lot of songs in them, but most of my songs from the past 10 years probably are not are not notated in sheet music form, and I only have primitive chord charts if I need to share with people. And a lot of the time they're not actually I'm not using chords that I even know what they are, and I'm not a real big music theory expert. So I just make stuff up that sounds good, basically. So it's hard to tell people what I'm doing, because even if I knew what I was doing, most people wouldn't know what that meant anyway. So it would be kind of useless information, because most musicians who play guitar are like me, and they don't know what the difference between a minor ninth and a diminished whatever. And so one of those songs that people were asking about is "Make the Planet Earth Great Again." And so I figured I really have no experience trying to explain to people how to do this, how to play the guitar, but what the heck, we'll just dive in, and hopefully it's useful. And if it's people can tell me. I'm gonna just assume people know a whole lot about playing the guitar. I'm not going to start with really basic stuff, although if there's interest, I'd be happy to do that too. But the songs that people have been wondering about specifically are in DADGAD. And that's the tuning I like to use a lot. Basically, other than standard tuning, if it's not in standard tuning, mostly I'm using DADGAD, which is DADGAD. So you basically, I'm not going to demonstrate how to get into DADGAD, but you tune the low E and the high E down to D, and you tune the B down to an A, and then you're in DADGAD. And so the strings that remain the same from standard tuning are the A, D, and G strings, the second, third, and fourth strings. But otherwise, you tune the bottom and top strings down a whole step, and you tune the second from the highest string, the B string, down to an A, to another whole step, right? So then you get DADGAD, which is this big resonant thing here. And I'm going to try to back up so you can see the guitar. That's an important element of guitar lessons, is being able to see the guitar. Okay. So I am not, so the song, the way I do it, it's on the 7th fret or the 8th fret with the capo, just because of how it is with my voice and stuff. And you can do it anywhere, any of these songs with a capo. That's what capos are for, to suit your voice or whatever other thing you're trying to suit. So I'll just sing the song, and then I'll go through it a bit in some way that I hope will be helpful, for people that maybe have had a little bit of experience messing around in DADGAD already. I think I wrote this when Trump was running for president, or sometime around then, first time around. We could tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, Set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share. Make housing, food, and healthcare basic human rights. Around the world, for everyone, is how we'd set our sights. If we could get to that point, I could say that then we could make the planet Earth great again. With human rights around the world, there'd be no refugees, no safeguarding your homeland from terrorists overseas, no need for a border wall, no jobs to protect. With a global basic income, it's simple and direct. Free trade, fair trade, same damn thing. We get to that point, then we can make the planet Earth great again. We could take on other issues like the survival of our race, by which I mean the bipeds on this floating rock in space, the most invasive species anywhere around, the one that keeps on burning everything that can be found, the one that will get it together in the nick of time and then make the planet Earth great again. We can stop spending money on antiquated technology, such as tanks and missiles and most other things military. We can use those vast resources to make us all safe and sound. Windmills in the air, coal and oil in the ground. We can be the envy of the rest of the galaxy when we make the planet Earth great again. We make the planet Earth great again. We make the planet Earth great again. So the person who requested that I play that song was one of the things that they pointed out was I don't think there is a version of the song where you can actually see my hands. So there you go. there's that anyway, for whatever that's worth. But just to go through the chords of the song, I mean, first of all, the strum that I'm doing is this kind of railroad kind of train kind of. So, I mean, that's a repetitive version of what I'm doing, but actually I'm varying the upbeats and the downbeats sort of randomly, which is what gives it that kind of rolling feel. So if you actually do it too methodically, it doesn't have that rolling feel anymore. You need to vary it randomly. Otherwise, yeah, that's how it works. It's how these things work. And I'm strumming all the 1 END, 2 END, 3 END, 4 END. I'm strumming each one of those little, sub beats, whatever that's called. It has a strum on it. It's just what's different each time is the emphasis, where I'm emphasizing the strum, and that's what gives it its kind of rolling feel, And otherwise, it's all about kind of the bass line, I guess, and this song and these little somewhat dissonant chords that some of them are really more dissonant than others, but it forms a shape. So let's see, it's like we can tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires. This chord. So I guess that's a little suspended sounding, whatever that is. But I got my I'm on the 4th fret. Not going to mention just pretending the capo is at the bottom. Okay, so if the capo were the 0, okay, I'm my 4th fret, and then the 2nd fret of the D string, and then the rest is open. We could tackle the economy first, and the initial chord, the open D chord. If we were on the bottom, I'm just assuming pretend the capo's not there. Open D chord. So that's just 1 finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. Everything else is open. A lot of most of the chords in DADGAD are like that. We could tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires. that's okay. And then it's basically a bass walk up thing, where we're starting out with this another big open kind of. So that's just the second fret of the lowest two strings. You got fingered, and the rest is open. And then we walk that bottom one up. So it's like, let's see, I got to start from the beginning, actually. We could tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share. So that's, we're moving up from this. And then it would be an A if it were on the bottom, which is just one finger on the second fret of the D string, and everything else is open. And then another sort of modulation of that chord, I guess it would be called, is just putting your one finger on the fourth fret of the A string. So we'll just start at the beginning again. We could tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share. And then it goes down a bit from there. So we're kind of working our way up. It's like this progression that's rising, falling, that's the hell kind of thing. So and this chord that we go to now is this kind of typical suspended B minor kind of sounding thing if we were on the bottom again. And that's one second fret of the A string and fourth fret of the D string, and everything else is open. So it's very much like fingering a suspended A minor chord if you were not in DADGAD, but it even sounds more suspended because you are in DADGAD. So I'm just going to get there from the beginning again, so you can see that, because if it seems complex, I mean, maybe it sort of is, but it's just the rolling, it's the progression of the bass line that's really what it's about, and the sort of rolling nature of it. We could tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share, make housing, food, and health care basic human rights. And that's a really nice suspended dissonant kind of chord, this one, which is basically like if you were going to the G. Okay, if you were playing a G, the standard way that I would play the G would be just the fifth fret, again, if we were on 0, the fifth fret, you got two fingers on the fifth fret of the bottom two strings, and everything else is open. But the version of the G chord kind of formation that I'm doing involves adding on the fourth fret of the D string one more note, which is a it's a seventh, right? Or so it's like or a second or whatever. So it's very a very dissonant relationship there. It's all very dissonant, but the relationship between that note and every other note, which gives that chord, I think, a wonderful feel to it when you use it in the right place. So let me just start from the beginning again, because I think I know I'm moving too fast for most people, but hopefully people can rewind and whatever. But we'll start at the beginning again, and so you can see the progression, the bass line, how it's moving. We can tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share, make housing, food, and health care basic human rights around the world for everyone is how we'd set our sights. So that's then around the world for everyone. That line is just back to the A chord, which is just, again, one finger on the second fret of the D string, and everything else is open. So it's, and then we move back to that B minor formation, and then we walk it down, and then we walk it down more, back to that dissonant G chord. So I'm just going to start at the beginning again to get to there, which seems most helpful rather than just continuing. We can tackle the economy first, get rid of all the billionaires, set the system up so that instead of hoarding, people share, make housing, healthcare, basic human rights around the world for everyone is how we'd set our sights. If we could get to that point, I could say that then. So I could say that then. We're just going back to the open D and then B minor. I could say that then. And then the refrain is a typical, kind of progression that you hear a heck of a lot of songs, basically, with slight variations because of the nature of playing in Dadgad on the 7th fret with suspended chords. But basically, it's could make the planet Earth great again. So that first chord is a variation on one of those earlier walk-up chords, and it is basically an E minor. If you weren't in Dadgad, it's a really suspended E minor, but so it's basically you're fingering the 2nd fret or the first 3 strings of the bottom, lowest pitched 3 strings, and everything else is open. And then you're doing that G chord, except without the dissonant additional note. So you're just playing those first 2 on the 5th fret. The first 2 notes fingered on the guitar, and otherwise everything else is open. And then back to the root, to the D. Make the planet Earth great again. With human rights around the world, there'd be no refugees, no safeguarding your homeland from terrorists overseas, no need for a border wall, no jobs to protect. With global basic income, it's simple and direct. Free trade, fair trade, same damn thing. We get to that point then. We can make the planet Earth great again. So let's see if there's any comments from people saying, you're going too fast, or this is very helpful, or somebody's tuning in late. Yes, that's an alternative tuning. Dadgad. So, okay. Well, I'm so glad I think it was Darren Hamilton. Thank you for asking me to show folks how to play that song, because I haven't done it in too long, because it's actually, I forgot how to play it. And so I relearned how to play it just now for this occasion. And I appreciate that because I really like that chord progression. Okay. Another song that people asked about is Landlord, which is very appropriate because of, right now this country is more than $21 billion behind on rent. Portland is over $125 million behind on rent. And the landlords, the corporate landlords don't deserve to exist. We should have housing for the people. So Landlord is a song about the rent strike wars of the 1840s that began on July 4th, 1839 in the town of Bern, New York, upstate New York. And so this song only has 2 chords, unlike the last one, which has a heck of a lot more than 2 chords. And the basic idea, this song is just, basically I'm using the right hand of the guitar as a rhythm instrument. And that is really the most important thing about the song, is to keep that going. So you just get the rhythm, Simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You keep that going the whole time. Your right hand is a rhythm instrument. So you don't stop playing the rhythm. You keep the rhythm going. And you play whatever you can play on the guitar in between, So it'll have this kind of staccato feel to it because you're muting the strings and you're hitting the guitar with your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the chord I'm playing is that. I'm on capo on the 2nd fret now, but just pretending it wasn't there, and we're on the bottom, and I'm talking about Dadgad. We're playing D, which is actually an E, but you know what I mean. This is D. So I got one finger again on the G string, 2nd fret. Otherwise, everything is open. The only other chord in the song is this basically what would be an A. It's actually B because of the capo, but it's an A formation, and that is just one finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and that's it. Although if we want to do some instrumental thing in between, then it's a little more But I will just do the song, which is extremely repetitive, and it shouldn't even require that much instruction other than beating the guitar. The main thing is beating the guitar and knowing how to play a chord with a muted, how to use your right hand so you're muting the strings. That's really the key for this. It's just being able to do that. To beat the guitar and mute the strings at the same time, but unmute the strings while, messing around with the pick. And it really doesn't matter more or less what you do between those beats, as long as you're keeping the beat down. 1, 2, 3, 4. The patroons came from Holland to America, became landlords where none had been before. Soon one man owned 500,000 acres on both sides of the Hudson River shore. He invited families to move in and give him 30% of everything they grew every year. This is how they pay the rent. His name was Van Rensselaer. He became one of the richest men on earth. In today's terms, $90 billion is how much he'd be worth. All this for doing nothing but saying all of this was his. I have the power of the state behind me, and I'm in the landlord biz. After 200 years of this and one revolution, another Van Rensselaer had another son, and this Rensselaer was greedier than his ancestors dead and past. It was the 1840s, and things were changing fast. It was the straw that broke the back. The bottle was uncorked. They started organizing meetings, the tenant farmers of New York. They found the strength of numbers. They found the power of suggestion. They found each other asking the same question. Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? They vowed they would stop this rent collection. They vowed they'd bring this madness to an end. And when one blew the tin horn of distress, they soon found they had 1,000 friends, dressed in calico skirts, with masks upon their faces, on horseback, armed with knives and guns. They chanted and they yelled, they kept their farms, and they kept the sheriffs on the run. They asked, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? The governor's militias tried to stop them, but nothing could be done to break their will. And by 1848 the landlords buckled, sold their holdings to the farmers in the hills. Yes, they overthrew this feudal system, but it's replaced now by speculators and banks. And you can still hear the homeless families asking of all the landed gentry in our ranks, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right? So it's two chords. It's beating the guitar. It's a matter of being able to keep beating the guitar without the pick falling out of your fingers, which it almost did, and while singing. And it's a lot easier actually to do this standing up, much easier, which I always forget, except when I'm trying to sing this song sitting down. For one thing, I don't have the lung capacity sitting down. But anyway, it also just in terms of moving your right arm when you're doing this kind of thing, it's way easier to do it standing up. If you have a strap and you get used to that, your shoulders can be more relaxed. I'm not, this is not the ideal. You really can move better when you're standing up. You can move better. You can play better. Everything. I mean, some intricate things can be harder standing up, but a lot of things work better standing up. It really depends. But this kind of song, way easier standing up. And so, I mean, if you get this basic, get that thing going on, you can do anything in between. And I mean, maybe not all kinds of things in between, but the instrumental stuff is really just as easy to do as any of the rest of the songs. It's just a matter of working it out in advance, or knowing your way around the particular chords that you're doing, and the tuning and stuff like that, and then you can just improvise it. But the instrumental that I generally work into this song is a very simple instrumental, and it just sounds cool. There's only a few extra notes in it. So this is just the minor third. Minor third is the best relationship between any two notes, according to West Virginia and me. So it's just variation on the melody. I'm just doing it repeated so you can see. Okay, then so it's a. Oops. See, I forget when I'm trying to show it to you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is just the A chord, except you're throwing an extra on the second fret of the high D string there. You're just doing that. So, and the reason why this part where I'm just at the end of the instrumental section, it only sounds sort of faster and more intense there because I'm just emphasizing each one of the parts of the strum. So it's like 1 Yandy, 2 Yandy, 3 Yandy, 4, they're always in there. They're always in throughout the entire song. You're always doing that. I mean, it would sound horrible if you just emphasized all the parts, all the sub notes, all the 1 Yandy. If you emphasized each one of those equally all the time throughout the song, then it would sound like, some kind of industrial hardcore or whatever. But, if I had a loud electric guitar and a band behind me, but when you do the only point in the song I'm doing that one end of the instrumental where that's all I'm doing differently is just emphasizing every part of each of the strum, which gives it this intensity. And if you just do it for a few bars and it's cool, any more than that, it's not cool anymore, Let's see. So where does that come in? Right? Just go back to the root, and then to hang out on the root a little more, I just do this, which is it sounds so cool, but it's so easy to do. You just slide up to the 5th fret of the B string, which is then the same note in this tuning as the as the high D string, which is now D, right? So you can only do it for a minute because it's basically like a tiny little guitar solo. It's like, if you were a lead guitarist, you're just throwing in this one note, and if you hang out on it too long, then you'll be missing the rest of the song because you're mainly a rhythm player here, right? But if you're just throw it in real quick, and it sounds like cool. And it's mainly why it sounds so cool is because you're actually playing two notes at the same time. So I mean, it is like a lead thing, but you're still kind of holding down the chord. It's just one note, but one note with two strings, slightly different, so it's a little dissonant, especially if you bend it a little. Yeah. So that's Landlord, and thanks for the kind words, those in the chat, which I can see now. Now the chat is working. I don't know how many people are watching, and I don't care, but the chat's working, so I'm seeing those comments now coming in. And now there were other songs. I know Darren mentioned another song, but I think I will just one of the songs that people generally want to know how to play, which is in my songbook, is St. Patrick Battalion, which is definitely the most, well, I'm pretty sure it's the most well-known song I've written, just because of how it's kind of gone on the web. And I'm very grateful for that, for any crumb. Grateful for all the attention. But this is so again, we're going to pretend the capo's not there. It's just there on the 3rd fret because to suit my voice once again, and you should put the capo wherever you want, depending on your voice or whoever's singing. So this song is in waltz time, which unlike the other two, which I just did, which are in 4/4, and this is also in standard tuning. So I've just tuned it back into standard tuning. And the basic, basically, there's a lot of things you can do with 3/4, right? And I mean, most sort of stereotypically, it's like, which is great for some funny songs by Joe Hill and whatever, but it's generally kind of very old polka sounding, and we don't do that now. But there's other things you can do with 3/4. A lot of things you can do with 3/4. And here's what we do with St. Patrick Battalion, or the way I play it. Let's see. My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. It was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. So in the midst of these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We marched neath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin go Bragh, bright with the harp and the shamrock, and Libertad para la Republica. Just 50 years after Wolfe Tone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. 5 major battles. Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside in the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. So that was done a bit slower than I normally do it, just because to sort of demonstrate things. But so it's this rolling 3/4 thing that you keep going all the time, just like those others. In many ways, similar to those other songs, you're constantly strumming, right? You're constantly strumming all the notes, right? Like if you were to do it, if you were to just strum the whole thing without playing individual notes, it would be like this, like that. So but of course that would be really boring if you did it like that. So you don't play all the notes. You play some of the notes, and sometimes rather than doing a chord, you play a note, one note, right? But you play in the same way as you would play the chord. You don't play it differently. You don't change around how you're doing things on your right hand because you're playing one note. You play the one note just like you would be playing a chord, and that's vitally important for good guitar playing. You don't change how you're playing. Don't be a lead player or a rhythm player. Just play the guitar. Okay? And when you're playing, so if you're strumming the chords, you can throw in notes, right? Alternating bass notes is the classic, but you keep strumming. And so you're always strumming, you're always playing that same strum pattern, but some of the notes are not chords, they are individual notes, or you can play 2 notes at a time, right? And whether you play the bass notes or melody notes, one or the other is no more difficult than the other. It's just a mental block that prevents some people from being able to play the melody notes like in the instrumental. And in the instrumental in this song, all I'm doing is just playing the melody of the song on the guitar while also playing enough of the chords in between that it's clear, what's going on, what song it is. And they're pretty much all the strums are in there because playing the melody, it just means, the only thing it means that you're not doing is you're not playing the bass notes so much. You're not doing the alternating bass line so much. So what can happen is if you're doing too much of a complex melody line is you really start losing the bass and losing the form of the song. So you kind of have to play with that, I find, to find this happy medium. Of course, if you're playing with drum or bass or rhythm guitars, that's a whole different formula. But we're talking about basically for solo acoustic, solo playing. So when I do the melody in the instrumental, I just so what it's based on is whatever notes I'm doing even if you don't know the whole melody of the song exactly, that this song is a very major key kind of thing, very straightforward. And if you know your scales, which is helpful to know, then you know where you are. Like so we're in C, right? So it's going to be notes in there. So yeah, it's going to be all in there. And if you don't play a note, if you play a note that's in the C scale, it's going to sound good. It's going to be in the song. It's going to be long. It's not going to sound dissonant. I mean, if you want to sound dissonant, that's great. Then play something else. But it's going to, if you play a note in the scale, it's going to sound just very consonant, whether or not it's actually the melody line. So you can just mess around and improvise. It doesn't need to be the melody line. But if you are playing the melody line, it's like this. Let's see. I mean, actually, it's not, right? What now? I can't remember. But any notes in there, it's going to work. My name is John. I'll have your ear on. I mean, so if it seems complicated, just try this. That's not the exact chords, but just, whatever chords you're playing, just try that. Alternate the bass line in some form. And you can see how, if you watch my hands, you can see how playing the melody, if you can play that, if you can play the bass lines like that in between the chords, playing the melody is just pretty much the same degree of complexity with a few hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff. Okay, that little thing is, you don't have to do that, but... You see, especially there, when you start doing the melody to the chorus, I lose the bass completely. I mean, I can't really do both at the same time, so it's like... I don't remember how the song goes. But still, it's fine to lose the bass. As long as you're playing something, it's fine to lose the bass now and then. If you're playing a cool melody, you can afford to not have the bass in there, but then get back to the bass notes is my basic philosophy. Sorry, that was a dad joke. So, I don't know if that really taught anybody how to play St. Patrick Battalion, but it gives you some idea, I think, and something to work with. And next time we can talk more about alternating bass lines and whatever else people might like to talk about. What else? I'm looking at comments. Anything else people need to know or want to know? I think that's a good 3-song set. Thanks for the message there. I'll check my email. And thanks for joining in on this little broadcast. I'll be back doing more broadcasts, actually do more of this recording this wonderful radio play that Tayo Aluko has written, Paul Robeson's Love Song. I'll be online here all day tomorrow, recording actors and stuff, and then during the week coming up, I'll be interviewing people on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and then at the end of next month, on the last Saturday of the month, I'll do another of these concerts, or maybe a guitar lesson, depending on feedback, depending on what, if people want more like this and want more guitar lessons, then it's coming, and otherwise I might do more concerts or some combination thereof. And thanks for listening, everybody. And oh, good. Somebody says it was helpful. Liam, wonderful. I miss Belfast. If you're broadcasting music on Zoom or any other streaming platform, this one I'm using is StreamYard, but Zoom can work brilliantly, or maybe, pretty well anyway, quite well. But if you're doing, I just wrote a song about this, but just so you know, if you're a musician out there and you're trying to do any streaming on the internet, the really main key is to disable the compression. So if you're on Zoom, you go to Settings, and then click Audio, and then click Advanced, and then disable anything that can be disabled. There's 2 different things they give you options to disable. Disable both of them. Those are different forms of compression. which are can be great if there's background noise, if you're speaking, if you have, you know, anything going on in the background, like a fan or whatever, people are banging around with pots and pans, or there's a baby crying, I mean, there's a limit to how much compression actually can work, but basically a compression can work really well and eliminate a lot of those sounds. But and it also makes you sound a bit like you're somewhere floating in space. So it's not perfect. I mean, it's really right now on this microphone, I have the compression turned off. So I'm just speaking to you with the processing that the USB mic has within itself, which is quite extensive, but I'm not being processed by StreamYard's processing, audio processing. And that's why you could hear the guitar and the voice at the same time. And if you are not eliminating the audio processing, if you're not turning off the compression, then what will happen is the compression will try to eliminate your guitar or eliminate your voice, because it thinks that one or the other of them is what people are trying to hear, and the other is something that the program is trying to eliminate. So what happens you just end up sounding really awful, and you wonder why you sound so awful, because maybe you're using a nice computer, you're using fast Wi-Fi, or you're plugged into broadband, and you have a nice USB mic. And if you have all those things, then you're golden. And if you're still wondering why you sound like shit, then it's because you're not turning off the compression. And no matter how good your equipment is, you'll sound like shit unless you turn off the compression. So that's very important. And even if you don't have a good USB mic, as long as you have a reasonably fast connection and a computer that's not totally bogged down, then you can sound pretty good, especially like with a MacBook or something. I mean, they have nice built-in mics, and you can sound pretty good without any extra equipment. Even on like an iPad or an iPhone or something like that, or other smartphones, you don't even need all kinds of fancy stuff like this microphone, which is like a $200 microphone that I'm speaking into. But it helps to have a good mic. But what helps most of all, most importantly, turn off the compression, and then turn it on again when if you're gonna be talking, and if you got a fan on, or the air conditioning, or a heater that's loud, or whatever, then compression. Wonderful stuff. So, yeah, what else? I guess I'll just kind of stop there and call my dad back. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. And remember, don't pay the rent, and trust your neighbors. Mutual aid will get us through. We don't know what's coming up, but we know that a better world is possible. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.